Hi, and welcome to Windows 10 Updating Uprising.
Fantastic.
It's funny because it's true.
Welcome back to IndieCent, everyone. If you couldn't catch by Danny's comment, we actually tried to record this episode last week, but couldn't because Windows 10 is terrible.
In the middle of recording, my computer just froze for no reason, and we had to restart. And when I restarted, it was updating and updating and updating and updating and updating for a while.
I've had to keep watching mine very carefully in the task manager section to see whenever it brings up a sneaky Windows update process and just stop it right there. It always does it and it's so annoying. I don't want you to update Windows, you keep breaking things. I still can't play games made in Game Maker Studio.
But if we don't update, how are we going to fix the things we broke with the last update?
But they never fix them.
Don't worry about it.
Anyways, we're going to be talking about Danny's pick this time.
Into the
Breach. How did I forget that? Then again, I have like 9 games here I plan to talk about, so I've been busy. Actually, it's kind of good we got to this one when we did, because Pacific Rim Uprising just came out in theaters recently as we're recording.
Mm-hmm. I just saw it last night.
This game's very much a response to Pacific Rim and a lot of disaster action movies from around the time, like Man of Steel. So it'll be interesting to talk about what it has to say about those, especially since it has one of the head writers from Obsidian on it, so that's going to be neat. But for now, we need to get to what everyone's been playing. Danny, why don't you start us off?
Okay, so last time we tried recording, I was like, I don't really have many games to talk about because it hasn't been long since the last recording. And I'll probably play some more in the break between recordings. I did not play anything in the break between recordings. So I have the same stuff to talk about as the last time we tried this.
Just make it quick because I'm probably going to be taking up the majority of this section.
Noctis Lucis Calum dropped in Tekken 7 last week, so I played some of him. He's fun, and it's super dumb to have him fighting Geese Howard in a parking lot.
If he wins, does he get chicken nuggies? No,
but he gets to sit down next to Kenny the Crow on a bench, just in the middle of a lava pit, like I took a screenshot of and posted on Twitter. Just this random ass bench with Kenny the Crow with his arm around Noctis in the middle of this giant lava pit.
He found a great place to fish.
It's kind of a bummer. Square Enix didn't... well, it's unclear why. I'm guessing it's Square Enix just trying to control his image. But it could also be maybe his model isn't really compatible with the costumes in Tekken. But there aren't really many costume options for him. Just a bunch of predetermined outfits that are mostly from FF15. Which is kind of a bummer, because I like to get goofy with those outfits. But you can still get a little goofy with what they let you have him wear. So I'm still not switching over from Lily. She's my main now, and plus I was able to get a costume for her that makes her look kind of like Nanami from Utena, so she's has to be my main. So Tekken 7 continues to be fun, and I will continue to play it. Last episode, I said I was almost done with 999, just had a few endings left. I got the rest of those endings like the next day, and that's a really good game. That's a very good game, and I was like, wow, I'm so excited to start Virtue's Last Reward, because that's got to be better. That's got to be even better, right? No. It just immediately, everything looked and felt worse. The really nice character portraits that had very limited but good animation to them when characters moved or talked were replaced with just crappy 3DS character models, 3D character models that And despite the fact that character portraits existed and are in the trailer in the same style as the first one, they just didn't put them in game for some reason. And I played one mission of that. I mean, I played the very first section of that and checked out, because that was a huge letdown. Maybe I'll get back to it sometime, maybe not.
Yeah, I'd suggest going back to it because there's always a lot of payoff with the Zero Escape series.
It looked like there were a lot more branches and stuff and going on than in 999. Plus, there's apparently an ally betrayal thing that I gathered from the trailer, but it doesn't look good to play. So I'll probably get back to it sometime and get my way through it. And finally, I finally started one of the hidden gems of last year's game, massive wealth of great games, Gravity Rush 2. Because I played the first on the PS4 remastered, and it was very much a Vita game, but it was a lot of fun. So I was looking forward to Gravity Rush 2 being made for the PS4, and it looks and plays amazingly. Like that's a beautiful game. It's kind of a crime that it was never on anyone's like best look or art direction in a game, because that game just looks beautiful. It's not the highest end graphics, but the way it uses its lighting and shading and color is just wonderful to look at. And flying around is just so much fun. And what I love about Gravity Rush, just in particular how she uses the gravity powers, is she isn't actually flying. She's just falling in whatever direction she chooses. And that's always been a fun thing to watch and play. And I'm looking forward to playing more of that game. Also, free outfit for 2B from Nier Automata, so I'm playing in that. I can tell not many people got the game because the online servers are being shut down in July, and were going to be shut down earlier this year, but that was delayed. So no more online challenges and trials, unfortunately. Go pick it up. Pick up Gravity Rush Remastered, play through it, and then get to Gravity Rush 2. I can't wait to play more of it, because that's a lot of fun.
Alright, I'll go ahead and go from here. I should mention right now that I've been playing more Mass Effect.
Have you?
I'm trying to get ready for the full course on it. I'm almost done with the KOTOR full course, so then Mass Effect is next, so I'm finishing up a Renegade playthrough with the 3 games.
Have you gotten to Andromeda yet?
I'm not doing that. Partly because I can't actually run it on this computer. I killed the joke.
Yeah.
Anyway, I should say Renegade in quotations because the way I figured out the system and how to break it, so I mainly just pick Renegade choices all the time, except for like major plot choices like securing the genophage data and stuff like that. And I always pick the Paragon option because I don't want to do genocide. And because of this, once I got to Mass Effect 3, despite my bar being overwhelmingly Renegade in the second game and almost entirely Renegade in the first game, it thinks I'm more of a Paragon. And I miss my scars, my wonderful scars. So yeah, I gotta do a lot of Renegade jackassery to get back to where I was. But I can't wait to get through 3 as a Vanguard because it's still such a broken thing. And now I have this ridiculous new move called Nova where I punch the ground really hard and make a psychic blast. And I'm like, yes, I'm a fucking Dragon Ball Z character now. Let's see.
Someone uses that move in Pacific Rim 2.
Not surprised. I'm gonna head back to Septerra Core soon. It's a old PC RPG based off more like old Squaresoft RPGs, like mainly Chrono Trigger and Final Fantasy VII. And it's interesting because it's like fully voiced. It has a very ambient soundtrack with some great battle themes and stuff. And like the world building's interesting. It takes place entirely in a world where it's like constantly rotating and divided into like 7 different layers or shells, as they call it. But it has this weird pacing issue that a lot of Square Soft RPGs had because of their like translation issues, where it feels like the plot is moving too fast at times. So I just get a new character in my party all of a sudden, but there's barely any time to establish their motivations at moments, and sudden dramatic plot turns happen without me actually feeling like I got there naturally. It's weird, but I like it overall, and I'm going to head back to it after a break because I'm like a third of the way through and there's a lot of it. I started Zone of the Enders, the Fist of Mars on the Game Boy Advance, and it's I actually like Zone of the Enders a lot, even the second game, despite having just a crap story. It's like Konami, after the first Zone of the Enders, was a big surprise hit because it had a demo for the next Metal Gear game on it. But it was like really good and had a nice story to it that was very focused. Just a light amount of world building, a lot of emotional stuff. They decided that this was going to be the next Big Vex franchise and made a bunch of anime and some spin-off games and just a lot of world building nonsense, and it's all terrible. It's all just fucking terrible. And this game, like, it has a cool battle system where it's very much like a normal strategy game, like the Super Robot Wars games, except actually I'm not sure if they were doing this at the time, but when you attack an enemy, you have to like line up your attack cursor on the enemy itself as it's moving around, and when an enemy is attacking you, you have to dodge their hits, which is like a really neat idea. But the story so far is awful. Like, it has a mysterious woman appear before a giant robot that just suddenly comes to life when your spaceship is attacked, and suddenly you're the big hero in something, and the mysterious lady gets amnesia. I'm like, I feel like I have heard this fucking story a billion times already in every terrible Gundam ripoff ever made. Just like, ugh. But yeah, I'll be getting back to that after Septerracore for sure. I played a little South Korean Earthbound-like called Plutonium for like $3 on Steam. It's a little preview of a game they're making right now called Flutonium, and I can't say anything about this game without spoiling it, so please just go play it right now. But I did do a write-up on it for a new article series on my blog, so I'll put that in the description and link it to you. I do have a spoiler warning in that article once it gets to the big stuff, so just so you know. Give it high marks. I already found another game for that series I'm going to write up on soon called Superstar Path. It's like a Shump, but mixed with a match 3 puzzle game. And it's weird and interesting, and I kind of like it, but there's a weird divide between the main levels and the bosses because they play so different. I also found a game called Tropical Liqueur, and it is a Hoonie Pop-like. I noticed there's a few of these starting to come out from Japan, and this one is more of a memory matching game, so it's much faster to get through. I haven't gotten too far into it yet, but it's fun. It has some really entertaining characters, great art, and it's a whole lot less scummy than Hoonie Pop is because there's no MRA bullshit in it. But unfortunately, there is a lowly character in it, so yeah. Though the most fun I've gotten out of it is when you start up the game, it starts up by putting up the developer's name and logo, and then a character from the game says the logo, it says the studio's name, and the studio's name is Tentacle Games. And so you always hear like a cute Japanese schoolgirl saying like, Tentacle Games!
Tentacle Game.
Yeah, like broken English, I mean like aces. And the last 2 games I've been playing are, I've been getting more into the Daedalic backlog, and now I just finished the Whispered World. It's interesting because it was not made by McCall's, the guy who's like behind Deponia. He was only the script writer, so there's a lot of his normal absurdist satirical edge, but the actual main story of it is shockingly dark, and I was kind of surprised it went where it went. It has kind of a lame character designs in it, despite the backgrounds being amazing, and the cutscenes look like they were animated by a company that does low-budget 90s church films. You know the kind I mean. But I would recommend it, especially for the sequel that was made like 8 years later called Silence. And Jesus Christ. I've never seen a game start off that dark before, and I can't even explain it because then I just give away everything the Whispered World is doing. So like, I just want to say play the Whispered World and then play Silence. You'll be kind of shocked. And God, that game is beautiful. It's easily one of the best looking games I've ever played. It's just gorgeous. Like, it looks like a moving painting when I just have the stills here. In fact, hang on here. I have some screenshots I can share. These are all in-game. These are not in-game. These are not cutscenes. This is in-game graphics I'm about to show you too. I was just kind of floored by how beautiful this game is. The art style's way improved. The characters are fun and interesting. It's just very weird that it's a sequel to the Whispered World because in a lot of ways it doesn't feel like it, but that's also kind of the point, but I can't explain that without massive spoilers. So yeah, I would say check those games out. Can't wait to see what else Daedalic did that I need to catch up on. And Alma, what have you been playing?
Been playing one main thing and a few little things. I've nearly finished Ace Attorney Dual Destinies. I'm going to finish that later today. Mainly, I've been playing Into the Breach. The last time we were recording, I had about 4.5 hours on record. That is now 24.5 hours. Because I really loved it. It was great. I tried a little bit of FTL Faster Than Light, so I could get an idea of what is it, Subset games? What they had done previously. I feel like if I hadn't then started Into the Breach, I would have, pushed through and been like, yeah, I could really get into this. But now that I have Into the Breach, it's like, why? Why would I play that when I can play this? But,
Exactly.
I'll be honest, I've been looking for something else really cheery to play, because I've been a little bit down lately. I've never told either of you my real name, but I'm actually Doug Walker, and it's all gone wrong for me. So, so I thought I'd cheer myself up with a nice... Now I feel mean. I don't know Doug Walker. maybe he's a big fan, and he's like trying to escape the bad news about... Okay, so...
Everything.
Yeah, but it's like...
He bought a studio and didn't soundproof it, so he has to record in his hallway, and he's been doing this for half a decade.
Oh, Doug. The main thing I've been...
And that's the funny news. The rest is not so funny.
The main thing I've been playing lately, Outlast 2 has been on my desktop for ages. Because, yeah, like I said, I only really needed some cheering up.
Ah, yes, the penis game.
Yeah. Since I have so many games on Steam, I'll put them on my desktop when I really want to tell myself, right, you're gonna play this soon, okay? And Outlast 2 had been on my desktop for about a year, and then I just realised, I don't actually want to play this at all, it's really scary. So I just decided to get it over with and rush through it, and I did really like it. I liked it probably as much as the original. I was kind
How
of...
many penises were in it?
Oh boy. Sorry, I'm genuinely trying to think about it. Does it count if the owner is dead?
Yes.
Does it count if you can't tell if it's...
Yes.
Oh gee, there's so many things, there's so many potential penises in Outlast. That's how we should rank the game.
3 out of 5 potential penises.
Yeah. I was kind of surprised to see that the reception to Outlast 2, a lot of people who like the original were like, nope, I'm getting tired of this. Because it managed to have a lot of the same, I don't want to say charm, it's hard to positively describe Outlast games. It had a lot of the original highlights, let's say. It's still...
The penis.
Yeah, despite all of the penis jump scares, then it is mainly just... It's always been incredibly atmospheric. It managed to really tap into the kind of clock tower, haunting ground. You're hiding, and you watch someone just slowly stalking past you, knowing that they really want to introduce their machete to your kidneys. And just when you think they've gone, they come back in for another look around the room, and oh, it's terrifying. And I'll be honest, a lot of times in Outlast games I would end up getting so scared that I would then force myself to leave the hiding place and run directly into the nearest enemy and die, just so that I could then... I found that kind of calming. Like, see? That's the worst thing that happens. There's a death animation. You don't need to hide in the barrel forever. I did hide in the barrel forever. If there's one thing that red barrels do really well, it's making memorably weird villains. Like, this time, instead of going around in a mental asylum, this time it's some deranged cultists living in, I think, some unused ranch in Arizona. And for some reason they must think you look like Piers Morgan's dad, because they've decided that you're the father of the Antichrist. So they're trying to kill you. And they're trying to kill your wife, who isn't even pregnant. Or is she? Who knows? And, there's a really fat, creepy, old, raspy-voiced priest. He's the founder of the entire cult. It takes inspiration from the real-life Jonestown cult, so it did its research for the creepiness, and he has a right-hand woman named Martha, who is just...
Martha!
I'm really glad I heard that after I played, because I never would have been able to take it seriously. But no, she talks like she's been chain-smoking since when she was a fetus. But despite this, every time she sees you in the game, she lets out this massive banshee scream and charges towards you, and then just impales you on a massive pickaxe. Which is... She's tall and very scrawny, but she just slowly moves around, dragging this pickaxe around. It's good. And there's a bunch of other villains, but there's too many to mention. If there's one thing red barrels do badly, it's underutilising their villains. They're really great and creepy, and I love them. But outside of, usually it's like the first time you meet them, you film them, and you get a little recording note, and then you can sometimes find other notes hidden around. Then that's normally it. And then they don't show up that often, and then usually they die near the end. That's about it. It desperately needs a whistleblower. Not in the same way that Cambridge Analytica needed a whistleblower, but in the sense that the first Outlast game, it's good and I love it, but I love it because Outlast plus the DLC, Outlast Whistleblower, together they give a more complete idea of the game. And Outlast on its own is really miserable and depressing, and it ends on the note of like, nothing you did mattered, and you probably just made everything much worse. And then Whistleblower came out, and it was like, hey, the mini Whistleblower story ends in a victory, and it turns out that the end of the first game wasn't nearly as hopeless as you thought it was. Whereas Outlast 2 doesn't have anything like that, so it's just... Well, it doesn't have anything like that yet. Hopefully they're working on something. But at the moment it's... No spoilers, but it's similar to the end of the first game, in that it's like if you were starting Outlast 2 thinking, I hope I get a happy ending, then what's wrong with you? But they could have done more to make it feel like anything you did was worth something. But that's pretty much Outlast, so there you go.
Alright, should we get into the main discussion?
Before we do, I have a couple things I want to mention real quick.
Okay.
First of all, I didn't play it. I tuned in over the past week to catch up on the Sonic Fox versus Goichi Dragon Ball FighterZ matches. at final round, and then their rematch a few days ago at Esports Arena, new Esports Arena in Las Vegas. And wow, that is a really fun game to watch. I've never been into esports, and I've only watched a little bit of FGC stuff, and I know very little about it. But Sonic Fox is the best DBFC player in America, and Goichi is the best DBFC player in Japan. And they finally got to go head-to-head over the past couple weeks, like three different matches, and those were some good matches, and it honestly makes me want to pick up and try to learn the game, because it makes the game look really, really fun. It also helps that over the past week I watched like 40 episodes of Dragon Ball getting into the series. So yeah, that was cool, and I'm probably going to be following FGC stuff a little more closely now. Looking forward to EVO this year with it there. And finally, I got a notification during the podcast that Swery and his new studio, White Owls Inc., have launched the Kickstarter today for their project The Good Life, which is a sort of Animal Crossing simulator type mixed with a murder mystery where everyone turns into cats at night. So it's asking for 68 million yen, which is about almost $648,000 US. So go check that out. Maybe back it. It seems cool, and I want to be able to play this game.
Okay, let's talk about robots.
Yeah.
Woo.
Pacific Rim sucks.
No, it's great.
I'm just getting us in the right mindset, since I wrote something about this game for Hardcore Gaming 101. Hopefully that article is going to come out sooner than later. It always takes like 6 months for them to publish something I send them. But Into the Breach was partly made up during the finishing up the extra content for Faster Than Light, when they were like when they came up with this cool basic strategy engine, and then tried to figure out what type of game they should make with it. And they started noticing a lot of popular films at the time were basically glorifying property destruction, and it kind of weirded them out, like with Pacific Rim in particular, but also stuff like Man of Steel, where like the weight of these actions didn't seem to matter at all, and it was just about watching things blow up and pretty ooh-ah. And so they decided to make a game questioning all that by turning the tide, by giving you these giant machines of destruction, and then making it so that if you try to play the game like you would see a pilot drive around in a giant robot in Pacific Rim, you're going to die. And not just you, everyone. You would have killed the world, you dumb fuck. And yeah, I'm not surprised at all to see that Chris Avellone of Obsidian fame was involved in the writing of this game. Of course he would write this. He did Star Wars, The Knights of the Old Republic 2, The Sith Lords, if you don't know, which was basically 40 hours of, hey, Star Wars is kind of bullshit, ain't it?
Yeah, there's not like a ton of writing necessarily in this game, but the little pieces of it are pretty nice for helping flesh out the world. And
I'd argue there's a lot of writing you're not seeing, because it's using the mechanics and design in the game itself to help push a lot of that. Mm-hmm. And I wouldn't be surprised if he had a large part to do in how all of this was framed, because like he does have some knowledge on how to frame game mechanics and a narrative. Like the big twist in KOTOR 2, the reason you were gaining experience from killing enemies was because the way the type of being you were was literally feeding off the force of anyone you killed. Mm-hmm. And the reason all your allies joined you, even though they were all like basically war criminals who would normally kill each other and do in the dark side path, is because they're being influenced by your morality, and theirs is changing with yours. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of showing you just how creepy a being you actually are as like just a normal RPG protagonist, and like putting it in context in the game and turning it into like an eldritch horror story. Mm-hmm. Like, this is the type of stuff he writes about. He did a Dungeons and Dragons game called Planescape Torment, considered one of the best RPGs ever made, and it was entirely about just some zombie dude trying to figure out who he was and why he keeps coming back when he dies. And boy, oh boy, was it not fun! Was it not fun in the traditional sense?
Before we go on, we should actually describe what the game is.
Right.
Into the Breach is a strategy game on a very, very small square map, and you have you pilot a squad of 3 mechs that you can either pick out in certain sets that have their own special moves and type of movement and objective with their set,
or you can to meet so you get coins to buy more.
You get, once you get actual achievements like Steam achievements, it unlocks coins in the game that you can use to buy other mechs, and then you can swap them in and out, and you use them to battle a race called the Vec that are emerging from the earth to destroy what is left of humanity. And you are basically going through time loops in different timelines to try and save as many as you can from the threat of the Vec. Turn-based strategy honestly plays out a lot like a puzzle game on some sense, because it's not, the goal isn't to kill all the Vec on screen, because they're going to keep coming as long as there are turns. You have a turn countdown, and
can I say I really hate that comparison, because I keep hearing that from people who don't actually play strategy games. Because, like, this isn't really that different from a lot of strategy games, because a ton of them have different objectives you have to meet in order to continue, including this one including stuff like what this game's doing with preventing property damage and stuff. Like, it's just really ignorant of the genre, and it kind of annoys me. Just a little pet peeve.
Aren't strategy games just puzzle games, but with more than one solution?
Exactly.
So deep.
I make them just because
I've never seen Pacific Rim, so I have no idea.
Shooting games.
I make the comparison just because strategy games that I'm used to, at least these kinds, where like you have these enemies and stuff. It's you usually don't have a set amount of turns. Like, you'll get some where like you have only these turns to do this, or else this goes bad. And it's more about the objective is taking out these things, whereas like in this, it's not about killing, it's using all these turns to prevent as much damage as possible, I guess. I kind of think I at least play this game differently than I play the strategy games that I'm used to, which is why I consider it, because I get into a puzzle mind as opposed to the mindset I go into in strategy games.
Yeah, I would say it's pretty close to something like XCOM, where it's very punishing for mistakes, but when you do something right, it feels really good. The difference is that it switches the objectives around, so you have to switch around what you're focusing on. So in this case, it's survival over dominance, for example.
I think the first time we were recording this, I think Danny said it's Pacific Rim meets Edge of Tomorrow. I haven't seen either of those, so I've just got, it's like Advance Wars, only better. And I'd say probably less story and way refined gameplay.
Oh yeah, this is like a piece of design mastery right here.
Mm-hmm.
Like some of the best in the business worked on this. Subset Games is made of a lot of ex-developers from stuff like the Shock series, so yeah, I think they know a thing or two about how to make a game, like a game's design really make up for the lack of production values. I think they made Faster Than Life and Flash, right?
I don't actually know.
Or am I getting that wrong?
Me neither.
Now I'm curious. But yeah, that game was really low tech. It was mostly just menu screens and text boxes, but like everyone I know loves it. So it's doing something right.
Played it for like 3 to 4 hours, tried a few runs. It's the kind of game where you start it and you kind of think, I have the potential to really, really enjoy this, but it's going to take me like 10 to 15 hours. Whereas Into the Breach is more like, I'm going to really enjoy this, but it's going to take me about 5 minutes.
Yeah, one thing I like about Into the Breach compared to a lot of other like games that use roguelike elements where it's expected that you die a lot and it's randomized what you get and what you can actually keep, is that it's not nearly as punishing as a lot of those other games are. So like FTL, it really sucks to lose an FTL or like Enter the Gungeon or something like that, because you lose so much progress and you're not really going to get a lot out of a particular run other than just like getting a little better with mechanics or thinking how the game wants you to think. But with Into the Breach, I actually managed to clear the first island on my first go with a little issue, and that felt great. So even when I was losing later, I was still making progress, like getting coins from achievements to get more mechs, finding new pilots, stuff like that. So I felt like I was actually making progress. Plus you can keep one of your pilots after you win or lose, and they keep their experience and abilities. So like you're always making some sort of progress. Yeah, and it's also not nearly as randomized, so like while it's random what missions you get, you have a good idea of what the mission will be like after a while, because there's only a set amount with very little variables between them.
Protect the train. I sucked at protecting the train. Probably my most...
rocked at protecting the train. I was not so good when it came to...
Well, tidal wave one time pretty good at, just because you just have to make sure you're not trying to shoot from in the water.
You shoot them in the water, and they die. Creepy buggers.
If you're using the rusting hulks, though, you're gonna have a bad time. Which is a shame, because they're my favorite.
I don't think I'd be able to pick a favourite. I've tried all 8 squads, and they're all... There's like 1 or 2 that are a little bit too challenging to get into, but I really enjoyed every single one of them.
The basic idea of the game is that when you go back in time to try it, you have to save these 4 different islands, or you can just save 2 and then go straight to the final mission, but you get a higher score and maybe more stuff to use if you go all the way, even if there's more risk. And every island is owned by a different corporation, and there are different territories you have to basically fortify so they're safe. And you can get different things from completing these, and the submissions involved in them. Like, if you protect a power plant, you get extra energy in the world's infrastructure, which is basically your life bar. It's okay if mechs die. While you will lose pilots, the mechs will come back for the next mission. But if that global energy thing goes down to 0, it's game over, period. And it goes down whenever a structure is damaged or destroyed. So like that really emphasizes smart defensive play to protect these areas.
Yeah, you only have like 7 little pips on your what is called a power grid, and when one building goes down, and it's very easy for buildings to go down, that's a whole pip. Or if it's a bigger building, it can be like 2 pips off your power grid. And if that thing goes down to 0 again, your life is gone. So you really have to protect the buildings and they are the priority even above your own health sometimes. And speaking of which, given that each mech has its own unique type of attack, a lot of attacks can actually take your own health away as well, such as one mech whose only form of movement is charging into an enemy unit, which damages the enemy unit but also damages itself. And you start off with probably 2 or 3 pips of life on your units. So, resource management is key.
The last squad I finished the game with is the 8th one, the hazardous mechs, where every single attack they can launch does damage to themselves as well as the enemy. But then they get health back by killing enemies, so every squad is really good like that. There's like one that's themed around freezing your enemies, and one that's themed around using this cool lightning attack, and the Rusting Hulks use
Oh
smoke.
yeah, those guys are fun.
God.
I think they're called like the Blitzkrieg.
Blitzkrieg.
Yeah, Blitzkrieg.
The least favorite of mine were what were the mech team with the big laser mech?
The Zenith Guard.
Oh yeah, they kind of suck.
There's one robot with a big laser, and then one that can kind of ram at people, and then there's one that it can pull a unit one tile, and I think once or twice a turn it can put some shields on something, but it's not
The
great.
shields were helpful, but the laser mech was just a mess to use. It's so easy to destroy things on your own side to have it any use.
See, I think they're the second mech group that's on the list.
No, they're
where-
the second one
The
is
Rusting Hulks.
the Rusting Hulks. The best ones.
Danger.
They're great.
Isn't the Rusting Hulks the first one?
No, the Rift
No,
Walkers
they're
are the
the
first
second.
ones.
Oh, the Rift Walkers. Yeah, the Rusting Hulks are the.
They have the jet.
I think it's the Rusting Hulks are the only ones I've actually had successful runs with.
Yeah, they do a lot of cloud cover, and that's really useful.
That kind of makes the flame behemoths a little bit worse though, because the Rusting Hulks, they create this electric smoke with their attacks, and the smoke cancels an enemy's attack, and the electricity deals 1 damage to them per turn. And you can upgrade most of your attacks, and you can upgrade that to 2 damage per turn as well. And you can just cover the whole arena with smoke, and you're completely immune to it. But then there's another group, the Flame Behemoths, and their kind of gimmick is that they set everything on fire. But if it's the start of a round, and if nothing's on fire, you literally cannot attack a single enemy. Because you only have 2 mechs that attack, one of them does no damage and sets you on fire, and one of them does damage to enemies who are already on fire, but if not, it just sets them on fire, and it doesn't cancel their attacks. They were quite hard to use. But I will forgive them, because you've mentioned that I want to talk more about how the achievements, it's some of the best achievements I've ever seen, just because they encourage really different but manageable playstyles that kind of make the player think of different ways to play, and they're all pretty. It's not too difficult to get most of them, but I'll forgive the Flame Behemoths because they have a very rare thing in a game, which is there's a joke which is a meme, and I approve of it. Which I never thought I would say, not after Communications Day 2017. But I think 2 of their achievements are, one of them is end a battle with 12 tiles on fire, and one of them is have 5 enemies on fire at once. And I can't remember which one it is, but for one of them you're surrounded by fire, and the achievement you unlock is named "This is Fine." And I just yes, I approve of that one.
I can actually see Chris Avalone writing that one directly, because despite how much he wants to tell you how everything sucks, he also loves making terrible jokes. Yeah. Oh my god. Speaking of which, I like all the dialogue in the game. It's minor, but it adds a lot of character to it and a lot of atmosphere. Like how the pilots react very seriously to everything that's going on, which makes perfect sense, but even then some of them are still gimmicky. Like the one robot that used to be a gardener robot and now gardens and then now pulls to the weeds of the Vec. He has some great lines. All the CEOs are interesting people. I like how the one on the desert island just calls you shit all the time, and she's right to do so. Most of the time you're fucking up, so yeah, she's right to do so. It's kind of interesting because the first guy is just like a normal, please help us guy, and then you get to her and she's like, fuck you.
I don't buy any of this time traveler bullshit. But you've got a big stompy robot.
She reminds me a lot of like Kriya from KOTOR 2, who just does not give a shit about the majority of the crap going on her, and just like, how does this help me? She chews you out in that game if you do anything like super good, like give a man some change, and she'll give you a lecture about how you just made him a target for muggers. Or she'll also chew you out if you're just a huge dick, like, hey, you threatened that guy when he asked you for money, and now he's a raving asshole and he's gonna go rob someone else, you asshole. I love that moment in the game because there's not a choice you can make that's actually right. And there's a big feeling of that in this game where like there's no optimal choice. Eventually you're going to fuck up and the characters are going to react to it, and you're going to feel like a little when you see like when a guy accidentally destroys a building because you think that was your only real winning choice to make at that point. And it's like, I didn't mean to do that. And he just looks so sad, and you're like, oh. And God, the soundtrack is so good. It's very downbeat and serious, like exciting, but like it constantly puts you on edge. It has real tension to it, and it fits the game like a glove. And the color palette, like the focus on purples was brilliant. It lets the game be colorful but still be darkish, which is really hard to pull off, especially with sprite graphics.
And the graphics just look so good too.
Yeah.
Like great sprite work. FTL had that too, great sprite work, but like even more so here.
Yeah, it's a good proof. It's proof that you can do a lot with less sometimes if you know what you're doing. I'm just gonna say, Into the Breach is a much more exciting release than Far Cry 5 by a mile, and probably has a lot more to say.
Also, I feel like we should mention just a lot of nice quality of life features that make this game go smoothly, like how it straight up tells you the order of enemy actions, so you know, like if you want to make one enemy attack another, you can actually, so it kills it before the other enemy attacks a building.
Yeah, it lets you know if you're actually doing that if you move them.
Yeah, you can actually make sure, okay, that's the order this will happen in, and stuff like that. And also the ability to save in the very middle of a battle and just pick it up right where you left off in the battle. That feels like it was meant for a mobile port or something where you would have to stop in the middle suddenly, because
they'll probably be doing that in the future.
I hope so. This feels made for mobile.
I should point out the pushing system in this game because we haven't really brought it up. Since your main focus isn't on killing the Vec, but just slowing them out or stopping them, what you need to do normally is just push them out of the way of damaging a building or another mech, or maybe push them into the line of fire of another Vec, or just like get them to target a Vec by accident and use all that to your advantage. Just buy enough time and keep them, and maybe use them against each other. And on top of that, the way Vec enter battles, they pop up from underground, but you get warning one turn ahead that they're going to do it through little breaking ground panels. And if you put a mech over it, you can stop them from coming up and take damage. But if you put a Vec over it, you can just have the Vec take damage and stop one Vec from coming up. And that opens up a whole doors of tactical opportunities. Mm-hmm. It's so satisfying to just like do a perfect mission with nothing damaged and the Vec didn't even get a shot off on you?
Yeah, I've gotten a few of those, and it feels so good. And just everything goes perfectly.
That's why, despite being 24 and a half hours in, I haven't stopped playing it on easy yet. Because I'm just having a really good time saving everyone. Yeah, I'm great. No, I don't want to try a harder difficulty.
I wonder if like Ivalone's experience, but doing some of the writing on FTL, he did some special quest writing, inspired him and some of the guys at Obsidian to put in all the difficulty options for Pillars of Eternity, which is based off a very difficult subset of RPG, and so they put in a lot of beginner-friendly stuff like a super easy mode, a story mode, and stuff like that, so you can just get like used to the mechanics or just enjoy the story, which is nice to see. And then there's also a nightmare mode that will make you scream because everyone wins. Everyone wins.
The difficulty modes here, it feels like you're supposed to maybe start on easy and build up your squads and build up experience points, unlock more stuff, and just continually move on to higher difficulties once you've unlocked more and built up your squads more. I haven't tried moving up to normal yet. I'm only 9 hours in, I think.
I think I've been playing on normal only.
I started on normal and went down to easy to see how different it was. And,
how different is it?
Different.
Nice.
It's easier. I think all that changes might just be how many Vex spawn or how frequently they spawn. I'm not sure which, but I'll probably place more on easy and then maybe bump up to normal once I've just gotten more stuff, more pilots. And
I'm too busy with other games I need to play for money to actually get back to this one, but I kind of do.
The last medal in the game is like beat the game on hard, so you gotta do it sooner or later, but...
Oh no, I forgot a game when I was reciting the games I've been playing lately. Eternal Dread on Steam, which is terrible. It's the weird fetish one where you can die because a spider wrapped you in a web cocoon.
That's Limbo.
Nope. Limbo doesn't make it horny.
Speak for yourself.
Moving on.
Okay.
Oh.
So yeah, we don't even really need to even have a spoiler section for this, I don't think.
Not really.
Like, we don't... I feel like we shouldn't get very into the last mission.
Oh, nah, go for it. I mean, this is very basic giant robot stuff. Like, no one's going to be surprised by the last mission.
Yeah, okay. So, after you complete 2 islands out of the 4 there, you can choose to do the last mission, and the game straight up tells you it's not going to be any easier if you keep leveling up, because the difficulty will scale to how powerful you are.
Right.
It's just you want to do the rest of the islands because you can. It's not going to make it any easier. So the first time I got through 2 islands, I was like, yeah, I'll take it on, see what it is. And I got to the very end of like 1 turn left in the first stage of the final mission, and I didn't know there was a second stage. So I was like, yeah, I got this. I'm just gonna go for it, just gonna gun it, and I'll take whatever hits I can, just so I can, like, whatever hits on the buildings, and I'll just go for it. It's only 1 turn left, who cares? And then it's like, oh no, there's more, and I have 2 pips of my power grid left, so I was like, well, and I lost. But that's a hard final mission.
At least they heal you in
Never
between.
play this like it's Pacific Rim. There's no Charlie Day here.
The most brutal one though was I had a recent run where I got down. I was in the second stage of the final mission. I got to the last turn, and that's when I lost just 1 power grid, and that was it for me. Like on the very, very last one, the last turn, I lost the whole thing. It was so frustrating.
Yeah, that's roguelikes for you. Everything is going right and then bam.
I like this compared to a lot of other roguelikes where it's not, oh, you need to get lucky with your drops just so you can get a good build.
Yeah, none of that.
Like stuff with like FTL or Binding of Isaac.
This is why I haven't gotten far in Enter the Gungeon, because your basic guns all suck. So you need good guns, but often you get crap. And it's also technically a shump and a bullet hell, because all the bosses shoot fuck tons of bullets, so it gets tiring.
Because the quote-unquote power-ups in this are... Occasionally you'll get a time pod drop from the future that you can choose or choose to not pick up, and you can unlock. You can maybe get one power point to power up something on your mech. You can maybe get a random new weapon or move, or you can get a pilot who's unlocked permanently in your barracks. And also, when you finish an island, you can spend reputation points you earned on it on certain power-ups, or if you want to boost up your power grid, which I always do. Like, you always use your reputation to boost up the power grid after an island. But those are the only like real random aspects. You can barely use them, or you can get shitty drops and still have a good run if you just play well, because that's what this is about. It's about playing well, not the things you pick up, which is really nice.
One of my favourite things about the different moves that the game offers you is that, yeah, at the end of every island you go to this shop and it's like, hey, would you like to buy this move or that move? And I saw one move which was like, you shoot a block of ice at another unit which freezes them solid, but it also freezes you solid. And I thought, that's rubbish and terrible, I don't want that. And then later you find the Frozen Titans, which is a squad where one of the mechs uses this, and you think, oh great, now I have to use this stupid ice power up, ugh. And then you very quickly realise, like, oh my god, now that I actually have to use this is the most incredible power up in the game. Because if you freeze an enemy, that's it, it's taken care of forever. Because yes, another enemy can attack it and unfreeze it, but you could just freeze the enemy who's attacking it as well. And you can unfreeze yourself by repairing, which takes one turn, so not that high a cost. And also, if you take any damage, then not only does it unfreeze you, but also it means you can use your frozen status to act as a shield. There were loads of maps with the Frozen Titans. They were probably the easiest team for me, because there's, oh, I need to block a Vec. I know, I'll put this guy on it, then I'll freeze someone else, and now, free shield. And it was just, oh. And yeah, just the fact that the first time you see a lot of attacks, you think, well, that looks a bit rubbish, and then they give you a mech that knows nothing but that attack, and you're like, well, I guess I can try using this, and then you destroy everything, and you feel really strong and smart.
It's kind of why I love the Rusting Hulks, because I wasn't really sold on the jet at first, because it doesn't really push anyone around, but it makes so many clouds so fast that it hardly matters. Plus, it can just go anywhere, which is great.
God, everything about this.
Giving that thing a movement upgrade just made it awesome.
I have written some complaints about the game, but they're pretty sarcastic. Because I felt like, oh, I've written a bunch of stuff like, oh, I love this squad, and I love all the squads, they're great, and oh, I love the gameplay, music and the graphics, it's all great. So I thought for the sake of balance I would write a few things I didn't like. For example, I thought I was going to be playing more Faster Than Light, but I guess not, because I'd rather be playing this. Is there any chance you can hear that Ace Attorney music in the background?
Yes.
Yeah, that's my ringtone. What the hell is... One sec.
Quality podcast.
Never mind, they gave up. What other flaws have I got?
Was it Ricky Gervais?
It was. He was just picked up the phone and he went, "Are you offended?" And then he hung up.
Check your text. He may have sent you a picture of him holding an egg that is written on it SJW ego, and then he smashes it in the second picture.
Oh no. My second flaw with this game is that I talked about it on a podcast, and then I thought about Ricky Gervais, and I was like, ruined forever.
It's fun that we can talk about him again, and it's actually current.
Oh, here's a flaw. Last year, for the year-end review thing, I didn't put any games that we had played on IndieCent in my top 5, because we'd already talked about them, and this year, with Into the Breach, so far, I don't think I can do that, because this would deserve to be there, so that's a huge flaw.
It's actually the best game that's come out this year so far.
Yep. It makes me feel like I owe...
Yeah, pretty much.
It makes me feel like I owe you an apology for 100% orange juice. Because I listened back to that episode and I was like, man, I sound kind of unenthusiastic and like I didn't really enjoy this that much. And I did. It was just that it was...
My pudding!
It was similar to Faster Than Light in that I opened it...
Papa's taking a bite!
Similar to Faster Than Light in that I started it and I thought... And I thought, I'm enjoying this, but it's gonna be like 70 hours before I finish playing with all these characters. And Into the Breach, it was the same feeling, except it was slightly fewer hours and slightly more fun to get there. But
it's funny you bring out 100% orange juice, because with this game and 100% orange juice for a while, I thought, wow, this is so fun. I would play a ton more of this if it was on my phone or on my Switch. Like, if I could just sit back with my Switch in my hand and just, like, put on Dragon Ball on TV and just play this for hours. Instead of having to turn on my crappy laptop that just decides to update all the time in the middle of podcasts.
You gotta keep the task manager open and just find the fucking updates.
Yeah, this game's really good.
Outlast 2.
Oh no, we've already lost the scripts.
It's over there. Blowing away.
Ricky Gervais. Oh no, he's holding them while he's crucified. And on his chest it reads... Atheism.
Back.
I'm gonna try really hard to see if I can learn how to do a Ricky Gervais impression. So that we can just have Ricky Gervais guest starring on the podcast.
Oh, you offended, mate.
That's it.
You offended. Mate. Yeah. My movies suck.
They don't suck, they're just average. And forgettable.
I feel kind of bad now.
Pacific Rim 2.
I feel kind of bad, because if you can do a British accent, I'm officially bringing nothing to this podcast.
Anyways, let's go ahead and wrap this up, since this looks like it's going to be a short convo after all, thank God.
It's all things considered a short game. You can just play it for a long time.
Oh yeah.
And I wonder if they're gonna add more, because it's a...
Oh, they absolutely will. They spent years adding stuff to FTL. They didn't actually start development on this until they were fully done with FTL content.
That's good. It doesn't need more stuff, but more stuff will keep bringing me back, because this is fun. It's really fun.
Yes, it is. It's very well designed game. Like, you can tell this was stuff made by like people who have been in this industry a very long time. Every single decision is carefully calculated and made. Everything is here for a reason. There's not like a bunch of extra bullshit. there's a point to everything. This is like a very complete experience you normally don't get with bigger games because there's so many hands in the pot, but this just focused, and that's great.
Extremely. And it's one of the few games on here that I'm gonna keep playing.
It also has more to say than Far Cry 5.
Yeah.
Hey everyone, did you know wacky American cults exist? Thanks, Ubisoft.
They're called Republicans.
Anything else to say? No?
No.
Okay.
You wanna like try connecting that to anything else happening? No. Hey, you can go to Mars if you buy the season pass.
Hey, if you pet this dog, it heals it. To be honest, that is getting me to consider.
Well, of course it is.
Anyways,
are you just not gonna pet the dog?
I think we've all made our peace. Elmo, what are we playing next time?
Hooray! I think you know what.
Do the
know what we're playing next time, Doug.
Do the bit already.
Let's just get it out of the way.
One of my favourite things about IndieCent is that thanks to this podcast, I've played a lot of games that, even though they're a little bit recent, I'm confident that in the future they will be considered really important parts of gaming history. Like, I wouldn't have played the Stanley Parable yet, or Lisa, if it hadn't been for them coming up on IndieCent. What do you two think about this podcast and, like, gaming, the history that we've got?
Eventually, one day I'm going to have you all play Hoonie Pop.
Good point.
So yeah, very important pieces of it.
Yep.
You know what's sad? Hoonie Pop actually is historically important.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know about you, but I think we'd better call Remedy Entertainment, because we're about to get Alan Woke send tweet. Because I've had enough of gaming history, and I think it's about time we talked about the Her story. How do you feel about that,
Okay,
Doug?
but seriously, what are we actually playing?
Okay.
How do you feel about Her story, Doug?
Elmo, seriously, what are we playing?
I just said, Doug.
That was a good bit. That was a good bit.
Seriously, Elmo,
Okay.
if you're actually serious about Her story, I am going to make us all play Tropical Accord.
Okay, fine. Now I feel like we're going to have to mention Her story anyway, but I think IndieCent... I don't think we've ever had an episode where we've all really disagreed on something. And I think I might have given it away last time, because when Danny said Into the Breach, then Dark, you said, "Oh, Elmo, be sure to pick something really pretentious next time to balance it out." Spec Ops The Line.
Yay!
Yeah, it's mixed feelings, and I'm so looking forward to it.
Is that it?
It's not the indiest of the indies, but I figure it's on the same level as Alan Wake and the Stanley Parable. And
I'd say it's more indie than Alan
Yeah.
Wake, because Alan Wake is filled with commercials and is basically just like, for all intents and purposes, it was a big budget game, but it was just such a weird concept that only got lucky because the Max Payne games made that much money.
Wasn't Alan Wake published by Microsoft too?
Yes, somehow they convinced
Yeah, so-
Microsoft to let them make this game based off the works of Stephen King and Twin Peaks, and then they added in a bunch of insanity.
Well, that'll
yeah.
be interesting playing that again.
But yeah, Spec Ops The Line is interesting. I actually have a book I will read up on before we get into this, from one of the main writers of the game, explaining how it got made and his experience in the gaming industry. And this is a very historically important game for the point in time it was made, but it also is like the poster child of that eventual movement of games about games, like the Stanley Parable, Undertale, and so on. So like, this is really where the whole thing kicked off. So let's see it. So next time we'll see how it holds up, and I will love it, and we'll yell at Elmo the entire time. So look forward to that. Listen, I like the gunplay in the first Mass Effect, so like I'm gonna be fine with this.
You say that now, I'm just...
I wonder if I stole my PS3 copy.
You say that now, and I'm just sitting here confidently smiling. Like, I've played Gears of War recently. It was better.
Well, yeah, it's an actually good... Well, yeah, Gears of War is a good game. I mean, sure, it's made by 12-year-old man-children who like chainsaws, but, you know.
It's no binary domain.
Anyways, we'll see you next time. Any last words, anyone?
Not really.
You know...
Astolfo's gonna explode!
You know, they say the only winning move is not to play. Elmo lost, apparently.
No.
Reference.
We are all going to lose.
Play Spec Ops The Line. Everyone loses.